Letitia James is a dirty cop.
Crooked AG, Letitia James.
Letitia James from New York. This is another real Lola. Letitia James is totally controlled by Washington. Letitia Peekaboo James, Peekaboo. She's controlled. She's got serious Trump derangement syndrome. Letitia James, a real...
It's not every day you see two people who once stood on opposite sides of power suddenly fighting the same battle, and against the same man. Letitia James and James Comey, both long-time targets of Donald Trump's rage, are now standing shoulder to shoulder in court, challenging what they call a weaponized system of justice. And when the judge moved to throw out Comey's case, Trump's reaction wasn't subtle, it was explosive.
New York Attorney General Letitia James in federal court today pleading not guilty to 2 criminal counts against her following a very public, very persistent demands from President Donald Trump that she be prosecuted.
Letitia James is a dirty cop.
Crooked AG, Letitia James.
Letitia James from New York. This is another real Lola. Letitia James is totally controlled by Washington. Letitia Peekaboo James, Peekaboo. She's controlled. She's got serious Trump derangement syndrome. Letitia James, a real bad one.
The 67-year-old, 67th New York AG, now vowing to fight and not doing it alone. As we come on the air this afternoon, a new reminder of the Shakespearean proverb that politics can and does, in fact, make for strange bedfellows. Lawyers for Letitia James now telling the court they're teaming up with James Comey in an event to get both of their criminal cases thrown out, combining motions to disqualify President Trump's hand-picked U.S. attorney in the case, arguing that her appointment was illegal. And the new duo of James and James could expand soon, or maybe if and when the Trump Justice Department moves forward with other cases against some of the president's high-profile critics.
There's no fear today. No fear. No fear. No fear. No fear. Because I believe that justice will rain down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream.
All right, let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel is here. We're also joined by CNN crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Polance. Caitlin, let's walk through Letitia James' arraignment today and what happens next with her.
Well, Casey, she pleaded not guilty. The court hearing ended. They set a trial date. It's going to be in January, so only 3 months from now. But things got off so fast to start that we've already seen an argument on paper from Letitia James's defense team. It's that argument going up against Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney, saying she doesn't have the authority to prosecute this case. The same argument that James Comey is going to be making and already is making in his own case in the same district. I'm going to read a little bit from this. Ms. Halligan, Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, lacked the power to present this case to the grand jury or sign this indictment, and she cannot continue to supervise this prosecution. They also write, this court must reject the executive brazen attempt to sidestep the constitutional and statutory limitations on the appointment of U.S. attorneys. So essentially what they're arguing and what we're going to hear at a hearing in 3 weeks where James's defense team and the other James Comey, his defense team, will be arguing this same thing. They're saying that Lindsay Halligan was appointed to this position too far into an administration to not have someone confirmed by the U.S. Senate into that post, that this is Donald Trump run amok, running the Justice Department as the president, and that also she wasn't someone that was coming from inside the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Justice Department to become the U.S. Attorney and prosecute this case, take it through the grand jury. That's the first big battle. The next big battle, though, will be Letitia James's attorneys arguing another very similar thing to what James Comey's team will be arguing, that Donald Trump has launched a revenge tour against them. They're going to argue that their cases, both of them separately, they'll argue that their cases should be dismissed because the prosecutors shouldn't have brought them to begin with, that it was a constitutional violation and that they were vindictively sought out, that the Justice Department was weaponized. So we're going to hear that over and over again, but not too many times over because this case is moving so fast and the trial date is not far away at all. Casey?
Yeah, pretty remarkable. All right, Caitlin Polance, thank you as always for your reporting. Really appreciate it. Joining us now in the arena to discuss is Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. He is the ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start with your reaction today here to what we saw from Letitia James. Do you think the government has a case here?
Well, I think what we're seeing with James is a pattern now where criminal defendants targeted by Donald Trump are alleging that the new U.S. attorneys who are installed just to prosecute them are not legitimately appointed, that the prosecution is patently unconstitutional because it is vindictive and selective in nature, and that the real justice process that existed before ended up with no indictment, and they had to implant these new U.S. attorneys to do it. So, I think that the merits of the case could be, debatable once you got into that, except the problem is that the government is going to face all of these very difficult threshold motions to dismiss based on extremely, aberrant and exceptional circumstances relating to a prosecution.
Do you think it's wise for James and Comey to combine legal forces here?
Well, I wasn't aware they were doing that. I think that their threshold motions in any event are going to be very similar because Donald Trump is clearly on a rampage against his political foes. And this cuts completely against the American system of justice. If you go to an authoritarian regime, they don't have a doctrine called selective or vindictive prosecution because that's built into the system. But here, where the rule of law is supposed to govern, that's totally antithetical to what it's all about when you have a president essentially identifying people to be investigated and to be prosecuted. And that's so clearly what's been happening in these cases.
I also want to walk through with you something we learned about yesterday from the former special counsel in the January 6th investigation, Jack Smith. He wrote a letter to your committee, the House Judiciary Committee, as well as to the Senate Judiciary Committee, offering to testify in public about the investigation that he led, having obtained toll records for a number of Republican lawmakers in the course of that investigation. Would you like to see Jack Smith testify?
Absolutely. We have seen the special counsels and the independent counsels going all the way back to Kenneth Starr all come and testify in public about their investigations and about all of the legal issues that are raised there. And there's no reason for this to be a back room behind closed door session led by the Republicans on the committee. It should be a public hearing where everybody can hear him. I was going to say, do you think
Jim Jordan will go for it? Will he go for having it in public?
Well, he should go for it if he is willing to honor the precedent of our committee, which has always had the special counsels come in and testify in public before the entire committee, before the Congress, and before the public. And the only reason they wouldn't do that is if they're afraid that Jack Smith would be far too convincing and far too compelling to the public in what he's going to say. So our fear is that they want to get him into a closed room and then very quickly cherry pick a couple of statements or a couple of words, leak it out and try to spin it and distort it. We should let the whole world hear from Jack Smith about what he found in his investigation. And if the Republicans think that he did something wrong, then by all means they can question him on it. But it's only if they're afraid of the answers that they would try to keep it behind closed doors.
Are you generally comfortable with the idea of the Department of Justice getting a hold of lawmakers' cell phone toll records?
So, obviously, as a matter of course, that shouldn't happen, only as part of a criminal investigation.
Of course.
Obviously, our Republican
colleagues... But even in that context.
Well, in that context, look, our Republican colleagues have no problem with the Department of Justice prosecuting our colleague, Monica MacGyver, and threatening to send her to prison for 17 years. So obviously they're doing a whole criminal investigation on her and then a prosecution, an attempt to send her to prison. So do I think in a comparable situation, if there's a criminal investigation going on into a violent insurrection against the United States government where 140 officers were wounded and injured and the Capitol was stormed, would I be willing to have my pen record? It's not the content of the conversation, by the way, it's just who you were talking to. Should that be part of a criminal investigation if there's probable cause or reasonable suspicion to think that evidence could come from that? Of course. But all of that should be within the rule of law. But this has been completely within the rule of law. And those Republicans who are saying their phones were tapped are just telling falsehoods. That's not true. Nobody's phone was tapped. What they were asking for was the records of the conversations.
Right, line by line, not word by word, as you say. Congressman Jamie Raskin, thanks very much for your time today, sir. I always appreciate having you here.
You bet.
What happened in that courtroom wasn't just another legal technicality. It was a moment that cut straight to the heart of American justice. When a judge effectively says, "There's no legitimacy here," she's not just clearing one man's name, she's calling out an entire culture of political retaliation. For years, Trump has blurred the line between power and persecution, turning legal institutions into personal weapons, demanding prosecutions not for crimes but for loyalty. And now, that same system seems to be pushing back. The Comey dismissal isn't just about evidence, it's about whether the United States still recognises due process as something sacred, or if it's become just another political tool. What's remarkable is the irony. James Comey, the man once accused by both sides of bias, is now in the same corner as Letitia James, another figure Trump branded as corrupt. Two people who once represented the machinery of accountability are now defending themselves from that very machinery, twisted by politics. That's the deeper story here. This isn't just courtroom drama. It's a reflection of how fragile justice becomes when power decides who deserves it. You don't have to like Comey or James or Trump to see the danger in that. Because if the justice system bends for one man, it will eventually break for everyone. And that's why this matters. It's not just about who wins or loses the case. It's about whether truth can still stand on its own without political permission. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns like this.